Hello and welcome back to the LFC transfer room for another live stream. Today I'm joined by Matty and Kev. Matty, I'll start with you. How are you doing today on this cold, rainy day in the UK?
I'm glad to be in the UK, to be honest with you, Charlie. I'm so happy to be home. Hope we'll get into it, but it was just a nightmare from start to finish. So I'm just happy to be home and safe, really.
Yeah, and Kev, obviously a long journey back from Paris. I think you got back early hours this morning, didn't you? So is it nice to be back in the UK?
It was nice to give me daughter and me son a nice hug.
Yeah, definitely. But today, the main thing we're going to be talking about is the Paris, what happened in Paris from a fan's point of view. I obviously wasn't in Paris. I've just seen all the stuff on social media, but that is why Matty and Kev are here. They're going to be doing most of the talking today, letting you know exactly what happened and what it was like to be a Liverpool fan in Paris during a Champions League final. So obviously, there's been a lot of reports, Matty. Saying the French ministers were saying there was 70,000 Liverpool fans without tickets there, and they've been very debunked extremely quickly. And now there's even reports that the French media are starting to side with, what happened in Liverpool fans. Has been a lot of outrage with it, but we'll start from the beginning. Obviously, you both arrived in Paris a day early. There's obviously the fans park as well with Jamie Webster. Before it all started kicking off, when everyone was going in the ground, what was the atmosphere about, and how were the fans interacting? Was there any police violence then, or was it all a good time in the fan zone?
The fan park was sound, really. I mean, I got off my coach, fucked off, because I was one of the coach innovations mob who was on a coach for 30 hours. So I got off the coach bit fucked off, but the fan park, I got there just in time for Webster, and it was moody in a sense of there was a lot of locals there picking pockets and stuff, people and trying to rob tickets and stuff like that. But the atmosphere sort of outweighed it. It was full of Liverpool fans. Yeah, there was a large portion of Liverpool fans over there without tickets, but the fan park was showing the game for that reason. So for them to come out and say there was 70,000 Liverpool fans without tickets, it's irrelevant really when they decided to put a big screen on for ticketless fans. So that sort of somewhat encouraged fans to make the journey over there anyway for the atmosphere. But then when we went to stadium, I went to stadium. I think it was about 6:15, to be honest with you. When I made the journey across, I was around the stadium from about 5:30. There was a pub down one of the side streets that had loads of Liverpool fans was playing Liverpool music, and it was decent. Police were walking past. There was no problems. There was absolutely no violence at all that I witnessed with any Liverpool fans, any Madrid fans, any Liverpool and Madrid fans. It was all peaceful. And then we got to by the ground, and it was like literally a gap, probably about this big. Like one person could get through. They'd put us in an underpass, but then park like I think it was 4 vans, like Matrix vans, down the side, and then one here like this. So you could only walk through a tiny gap. And there's probably 20 odd thousand fans there because that's where like Liverpool fans are going through either neutral ticket, and that's where neutral fans were filtering through from. That's where we got told to go by the police. Obviously, I was in club colours, probably why I got directed there. But there was Liverpool and Madrid fans within this, and a lot of locals pickpocketing people, and they were trying to cause a lot of trouble with the locals, like pushing them, and then Liverpool fans would then obviously be agitated. But then it was the Liverpool fans who the police were then going over to, not the local. And then everyone started to push by pointing up onto this bridge, saying, "Look up there," and we just seen loads of police. And then out of nowhere, they just started tear gassing us for absolutely no reason. So all videos where you're seeing people like climbing over like the wall and stuff, it's just sheer to get to safety. There was kids there like gasping for breath. There's tears where you gas you can't see, and there's like older people there. It was just absolute carnage for no apparent reason. And then they closed the gates. I was quite lucky because I'd scanned my ticket, and then when I turned around to see where the rest of the group of lads I was with was, they had just got through, and then they just started closing the gates. So I was then through the first checkpoint, and I had to then go to the second checkpoint, which I went straight through because I didn't want to wait around outside just in case they closed that one. And then they closed the gates, and from inside the stadium, I went up the step. I had a good vantage point, and there was just thousands of fans out there, and they were still tear gassing, and they were spraying it directly in the face. And it was just horrible, really. Like the fans didn't do anything wrong at all, and all these agendas on social media about Liverpool fans, I feel like it's very unfair if you weren't there to understand how bad it was. Like it was horrendous. There was fellas on my coach site like comparing it to Hillsborough, which I can't comment because obviously I wasn't there at Hillsborough, but there was like older fellas saying it was as bad as that, which is just it's grim to even think that Liverpool fans are being treated like this again. It was scum.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we've seen with Everton fans when they were in Paris, it happened to them as well. You know, and the fact that they're still blaming Liverpool fans, despite, you know, this didn't happen in Kiev, this didn't happen in Madrid, it's only happened in Paris. You know, there was probably the same amount of fans without tickets in Madrid and Kiev, and you know, as you said, Matty, the fan zone was there, and Kev. I mean, and I know you were there earlier. It was a from the videos I saw, you know, from the coverage, it was a very family oriented affair. There was a lot of kids with the families, you know, enjoying the day, even if they didn't have tickets. They were enjoying the Jamie Webster concert, you know, in the fan zone, and enjoying stuff. But I know you sent a picture to one of our chats with the tunnel that all the fans were being funneled through. You know, it can you just explain what it was like in there? You know, how you felt.
Well, I got there on the Friday. So on Friday, I arrive in Paris about 7:30. So we go for breakfast. We then do all the tourist sites, go around a river on the Seine. A lot of Liverpool fans interacting with locals, with owners, joining the cultural sense of it, being there, getting wrapped up in what Paris can bring. It was great seeing all little lads all running around, all jolly, all great, and it was dead jovial. Day of the game, I agree with Matty. I was there about 12:30. Now the day before there was no police presence at all, and they had all entries leading down to that actual station, which was National. Had all those station entries open. On the day of the game, there was a strong police presence, and 2 of those actual entries was shut completely and were guarded by police, and you couldn't get through. So you had to use the 2 that you had to come out of. So we come out of there and we went over the road to a place called Royal 6 National, which was owned by an ex PSG player who's a good friend of one of my mates. So we met his family, we sat down, we had lunch. It was great. Kids running around, having a laugh. No, there was a police presence, but there was nothing around there to say that they were getting involved with anyone at all. We were far away from the fan zone. I can't talk about. I can only, from my experience, I didn't go to the fan zone because I knew it was going to be hectic, and I was just there to meet my mates who were coming over at different times. So, but I did conversations who I spoke with, and to friends who'd gone there, that at the very start of that, they were only letting one person in at a time, and there was security checking on them. And there was 2 points. I think one was for 5,000. Then there was another bit where it went on a bit further on. But I can't comment on that, so I can't say if that was correct or not. But I'm going from what I was sold. I then sat down. There was no fake tickets going on at all. So this story and this narrative that there was loads of fake tickets, I didn't see at any point anyone talking about fake tickets or going around offering for fake tickets. I'd seen signs with, you normally see at European Cup final style, you see old fellas, I need a ticket for the game, or that kind of keeper. No interaction with anyone. No one was going over and having conversations with these people. Instead, it was just, oh yeah, I heard there's trouble getting, yeah, well, the fan zone's getting on. Yeah, we're going to look at another boozer a bit further down, see if we can find a boozer that can have it on. The boozer I was in and the one next door was showing the game. So people were already getting their seats ready to sit around and do that. Kids were very jovial. It was a great atmosphere. By 6 o'clock, we made a decision, because the game was at 9 local time, we made the decision to go at 6 o'clock from the station to the ground, because we wanted to, as Matthew probably wanted to do, get down there early, enjoy the build up, and sit and take it all in. As we get down there, we're already halted from getting to the station. Police guards straight away. So that was an inkling then as to what was going to happen. We then allowed to go through. Everyone was jovial. It was very close proximity as we're walking down, but it wasn't uncomfortable as such. Again, where all the gates are open, so there's no kind of congestion. There's no kind of queues building up. Everyone's going down. The only time I saw that was actually on the platform. And then on the platform, you've then got no staff in place, no police or nothing like that. So there's no kind of security or safety measures for overcrowding on the trains. Due at the time, you still got locals using the metro system. So as we go through there, we then have to get off another station a bit further along. Can't remember the name, but we have to get an RER train, which is a double-decker one. So as we get off, we then flow through, police telling us which ways to go. Everyone's singing, typical European kind of style, and everyone's just enjoying themselves. People are taking photos. Locals are looking and going, wow, aren't these great? Isn't this great? People taking photos, everyone taking recordings. It was great. It was a great atmosphere. Again, though, we get on the train and it's then getting a little bit more uncomfortable because there's no sense of people stopping people to get on trains. People are running onto the trains to get on because they didn't want to miss it. But there was no people there, staff-wise, preventing any overcrowding of any sort of description. It got to the point on that train before we got off that people were locals were having a lot of hostility because they couldn't get on or off the train at certain points. We then get to Le Stade de France. As we get there, Le Plain de Stade de France name is the station. I think I went a different way because I've heard where I was queuing up when I get to it, a lot of people are saying what Matty said. For some reason, we were showed a different route. So as we came out, there was locals all in the vicinity of the platform. Now, I didn't think nothing of that, neither did any of my friends. So we were just thinking, all right, well, they must be waiting for another train or they're going to work or whatever. As we come down, we're going through. Now, some Real Madrid fans are on our train as well. And as Matty said, there was no kind of hostility. There was more of a European respect in a way. So as you're going through, it was good game, and let's see who wins. And there was no, and it was a bit of fun and a little bit of gesturing, but nothing that would say anything otherwise than a great experience that we're going to go enjoy it. Two great teams. Let's see what happens. As we're going through, we're then stopped and halted. We then asked the police, what's going on? There was no communication, no verbal communication whatsoever. And that continued all the way up. At a certain point, we were stopped. No security checks. So I didn't get my ticket out at any point. What I was noticing was more and more locals over the road from where I was. So as I'm walking down, thinking, all right, well, it must be busy. It must be, because it was around an industrial estate. There was loads of building offices and we couldn't actually see the stadium. So we're walking down one road to walk back up the other side. As we're walking back up the other side, we see all the VIP coaches, UEFA ones, and they're stuck in this now. And we're all walking up. At no point there's any verbal communication. There's no kind of reasoning. And again, the worrying thing, as I was speaking to people around me, was, where's these security checks? Because I didn't get my ticket out once. As I'm walking up, so I'm bearing in mind I'm being told to walk up here to what initially came the concourse. As I'm walking up, there are locals walking down, 3, 4 at a time, walking the opposite way to all we were. I thought at first there was about 2,000 or 3,000. I didn't realise there was as many as what has been reported. As we're walking through, as Matty said, there was one police van that was angled and a further 4 behind that was preventing, that basically bottlenecked that picture I posted on our chat. And that's when you started noticing the queue stopping, people getting uncomfortable, and everyone in close proximity to each other. You then start hearing reports from people around you that tickets are starting to get stolen off people. And still, there are locals coming down this way. There was 3 or 4 police officers. Now, this barrier that they put up there was about 4 of them all leading up to the concourse. So there was a funnel effect. As that's happening, we're getting even more and more congested together. You've got police helicopters going on overhead. You've got a motorway as well. You've got locals running around, walking past you, pickpocketing. So everyone's then got to are all getting agitated as to what's going on. What is going on here? As we get up, as we're walking up, it was horrible walking through because there was about 2 to 3 meters until the next blockade was in the way. So it was a funnel, open, funnel, open, funnel. And that was like that where I was. You had a minute breather. People are trying to, there's no way to have to go through the toilet. So any kids that needed to experience to go to the toilet, there was no way for them to go. Any women in the queue, any elderly people that were claustrophobic, or anyone who has asthmatic problems, there was no way for them to even have a respite. You then follow through again. As we get up to where the concourse is, there was about 15 to 20 local lads just sitting there or trying to get up onto the ledge. And again, I'm thinking, what's going on here? But again, it didn't rationalise in my head. This was from about 6:35 by the time I got off the train. And it's only approximate time. I get up to the ground about 7:10. As I get there, I'm in row Z. There's already a zigzag effect already in place. You can't see the barriers because there's that many people standing there. Behind us is the LFCTR. Jason McAtee is up on the stand, and we're calling to him, going, "What's going on?" People in the queue saying to me, "There's been like this for an hour, 2 hours." No one's walked up, and you could see there was literally no one walking up those steps at all. There was we were told that there was 1 gate open out of the 7. That had stopped. Now, at no point was anyone communicating anything to anyone outside. Instead, what you had was Liverpool fans getting agitated because no one was telling us what was going on. And we were relying on ourselves to understand what was going on. Any shouts to stewards or to the officials inside was met with non-verbals and was basically told nothing's happening. They then walk away from the turnstile and we're going, what's going on here? If we then find out by someone at the front of the queue, now this is not coming from any official. The actual turnstile is jammed and we now need to move to another area to go. So you either had Y, which was the next one up, or you could go the other way. We decided to go to A, but at no point there was an official announcement. At no point were we told officially that we had to do that. That was jumped because fans were trying to understand what was going on. Some saw it was jammed. I didn't see it jammed. But again, you then go, right, well, what do we do? Do we stand here or what? We walk around to A. Now, A is a similar situation, a bit around the corner, and it's barriered off as well. So it's a bit like a right angle in a sense. You've got the turnstiles at your front and a big fence along there. You've got an official shops just to the side. As you walked in, there was 1 turnstile ajar, but no one was moving in the queue. And it looked as though all the barriers had been merged together and everyone was just segregated together. You didn't know where the end of the queue was. So we just joined where we assumed where the end of the queue was and just stayed there. As we're staying there, there's loads of kids, elderly people, young lads, and it's building. It's getting to the point now where you're there and you're thinking, right, what time is it now? And it's edging closer to 9 o'clock. Again, no communication, no announcement, nothing. We're stood there. We see this ajar. And then next minute, we were there for about half an hour. And as we're talking, you get talking to people, and I hear people saying what Matty experienced, and then we're flabbergasted at what I said, where I haven't showed my ticket, I haven't got it out my wallet. And people had shown me the ticket and going, look at that. And there was a purple mark on a couple of the tickets to indicate it's an original ticket. As this is happening, and you get to know a few people and you have a few laughs because you're trying to make light of the situation. Everyone's being impeccable, by the way. There's no one hostile. Yet we are hostile because no one's talking to us. But no one is actually. Everyone is impeccable. We're all standing there doing, just abiding to what we've been told to do, or trying to fathom out what we're doing between ourselves. We are stood there doing nothing other than that and trying to make light of the situation. As we're doing that, 30 to 40 people with no colours on storm defence and jump over and get in. As they do that, we all turn around and go, that's it. That's it. That's it now. We're done for. We're done for with everyone now. Everyone will think that's us. As that's happening, the tear gas gets dispersed. Now, bear in mind, you've got young kids, you've got people of an elderly nature. Next minute, everyone's eyes is starting to go red raw. I've got pictures I'm willing to share with anyone if they need them to show how red raw might see. It was horrifying. You had kids crying their eyes out. You had people getting agitated. You had people getting to the close where I can't deal with this anymore and walking away from the actual queue. You then still had locals still trying to funnel in to get in near the turnstile once it started to move. We got rid of 2 in the queue because they were pretending to be police, showing a certificate on the phone. And we were saying, no. One was holding the coat close up to the thing as though he was undercover. We had to force them out. We eventually get through. As I get through, within a 2-yard space, maybe 2 to 5 yards, I got body checked 3 times. And that's the only, that was the only security check I had. By the time I got to my seat, which was row 69, which was where the scoreboards were, the opposite one to the Real Madrid end, I was too exhausted and too shook up as to what had happened to support my team or to even talk to any of my friends. And that was from 6:10 right up to 20 to 10, quarter to 10 before I got into the stadium.
So at no point did you ever get your ticket checked? Ticket checked?
No, my ticket was in my pocket. So I was wearing shorts. So I had those shorts where you have a big pocket on your left-hand side and all like that. So because I knew, because I'm a bit of a big person, I don't know if anyone's noticed, but I need big pockets. So that was where I took a wallet that would keep me Champions League ticket in because it was a big ticket. It's bigger than your normal away tickets that you get. I didn't have to take that out once at all. The only time I took that out was when I got to the turnstile. Now, that's my friends' encounters, and there was about 8 of us, and others that experienced that. There was others that went the other way. So as you came down from row Z, Matty, I came from the right-hand side as you're looking, whereas I think a lot of people came from the left-hand side, which is where I went on the way out. So I kind of went a different way, but I can't be sure because I don't know the street names. There's no street names for me to look at. But I didn't get shown once. I didn't have to show anything once. It was a joke. And we were ensured that there'd be 6 points of calls where you'd be security. Now, I heard that people who were getting security checked were told that they could bring charges with them. We saw tweets the night before saying you can't, they'll be confiscated and taken off you. And I heard the people of getting their charges taken off them. And they were more interested in the charges being sent off them than actual fans' tickets. It was an absolute joke. But the amount of locals that were allowed to be in that area at that time was an absolute joke and an absolute shambles.
Because with my ticket, I had one of them UEFA ones, so the steward has to activate your barcode. So the only point I had, so in that bottleneck where they had the vans, anyone could walk into that, literally anyone. If you didn't have a ticket, you could go in there, to be honest with you. Absolutely anyone could walk in there. It was heaving with the locals, heaving with it. And then when I finally got to the gate where the first checkpoint, so to speak, where you look at your ticket and you've got to show them the UEFA one, so that's where they activate the UEFA ones. The stewards and locals were working together to rob people because I'd had a text off my brother saying, don't give them your phone. So I thought, what's he going on about? Because one of his mates had a UEFA neutral as well. And what happened was I went up with my phone and the steward was asking for my phone. And there was a local lad sat on the wall next to her. And I said, no, you scan off here. Like she only had to tap a card on my phone. And she was going, no, you give me your phone. So I went to the next fella and he just tapped it and walked through. Because I'd had a text off my brother saying, don't give them your phone. Because apparently when you give them your phone to do it, the local, they were then like giving it to the local and they were running. and they had the ticket activated on the phone then, and they had your phone with a Champions League final ticket. And I was the same as Kev. That was the only point I got asked for my ticket. And then when you got to the barriers and stuff, I seen loads of people arguing about the power packs. It literally says on the ticket, power banks were allowed. And my argument to the stewards was, I need it because my ticket is an e-ticket. I physically had to have power on that phone to get into the ground. And eventually they took it off, yeah. And then the police grabbed me at the back of my neck and just threw me through, as to say, like, get in, because I was arguing with them because I needed this power pack. Now, I was on my own in the neutral section, and I also need a battery on my phone to go meet my brother after the game. So I needed this power, and they were just not bothered. And you're trying to point out on their official ticket where it says power banks are allowed. It was under a certain regulation and a certain size. I looked into it before I went. I bought a power bank that was the exact size they said. Still took it off me. Ridiculous.
It's a shambles. And the worst thing about it is, sorry as well, as I get through, and I've gone through, I then approach a steward, and he had UEFA a suit on, and I asked him why this, why has this happened, and he just gave me just a discerning look as if to say, "Get in now, go away," with his hand, with a hand movement, a hand gesture, "Go, you're in." That was it. That's the response. That's the only response I got. Yet they were quite willing to get the riot police out. And that annoyed me at the very end of the game as well. There's no riot police down the Real Madrid end. Yet they're all outside our end. That was an absolute disgrace. It was a piss show, to be honest. And I apologise to use any French there, but it's absolutely diabolical what us fans have had to experience. I only had a light experience of it. I know many who have had more worse experiences, but I can only speak on my behalf of what I went through. It scared me up, honestly.
I mean, as you both said, there was, as anyone who's been to a stadium is aware, there's multiple gates, dozens of gates around the whole stadium where, gate G, gate F. If you go to Wembley, there's a gate every 50 meters where you can get in, where your tickets are to. From what I've been reading, it seems like there was only one or two, and when you're trying to fit 20,000+ Liverpool fans in, and they're saying that there's 40,000 other Liverpool fans who all have fake tickets who are trying to get in, not including the locals, who we've seen multiple videos of hundreds of locals storming into the ground. Was it that understaffed that he had to close all them gates, or because it feels like to me there was, from the videos I've seen, there was a lot more police than there was stewards, which at a football game I have never seen.
The only point I really noticed there wasn't many staff was leaving, to be honest with you, because it did seem like there was a lot of them going into the ground. And the issue, there was loads of gates. There was loads of gates around the whole stadium, but to get into that gate at the point where you scanned your ticket and you was in, then that was it. That there was more gates there, but it was the gate. It was the security check to get to them gates. I think there was only 2 maximum, and then you've got what your UEFA needed to understand is with these neutral tickets as well. There may have been 19,000 the Liverpool end, but out of these, I think 40,000 neutral. I'd probably hazard a guess that about 35,000 of them were Liverpool fans as well, all with genuine tickets. Now, like Kev said before, there was no mention of any fake tickets. Not once did I get offered a fake ticket outside the ground. Everyone who I spoke to in that bottleneck, they all had tickets. Some was in the Liverpool end, some was in the neutral end, some had tickets in the Real Madrid end because they had bought them there, and they were still being filtered through this section. Not once did anyone say, do you need a ticket, lad, or anything like that. There was literally nobody saying, I wonder if I can bunk this here at all. And every single person who I went with who was ticketless stayed away from the stadium, because Champions League finals are some of the most secure things going usually. I know not many people will try it that bunk because they don't, it's the fear of the unknown and stuff like that. And where I was in the neutral side, I seen probably about 100 people bunking into the Real Madrid side. That's when they were climbing over the fences and running. Now, the stewards were just not chasing them. And if they did chase them, the minute they got to the stairs, they stopped. And the other worrying thing with the Stade de France really was once you got into the concourse of the stadium, you could walk the whole way around it completely. The barriers segregating fans were literally like a handrail. So I could have walked straight into that Liverpool end, no problem. Any tier as well, by the way. So if you say, for example, in Anfield, if you're in the upper main, you go in a different turnstile that leads you out onto the upper main stand. If you're in the lower main, and same with every other stand on Anfield. Where in the Stade de France, once you was in. So I had walked up all the stairs because I was in the upper tier, but I could have also just walked into the lower tier. There was not a single steward checking your ticket in the ground to say where your seat was, so you had to find a seat for yourself. There was more Just Eat workers delivering food to seats and beer to seats than there was stewards, genuinely. It was crazy. And there was one girl who I seen on the upper tier as a steward for all of us, and there was a lot of Real Madrid fans and Liverpool fans mixing, and there was no ounce of trouble. Like, I was sat next to a Madrid fan. When they scored, he was going mad. I didn't jump up and have murder with him and stuff like that. We were singing and he was singing. It was a really good atmosphere. It was just the stewards ruined it. And I think if you watch the Champions League final back and you listen to the Liverpool end atmosphere, I think that sells a story, because you'll never find a Champions League final where Liverpool fans are quiet, ever. And every fan in there, I think they were just shocked. They didn't, like what Kev said, you just didn't want to speak, you didn't want to sing, you didn't want to do anything. I spent the whole 90 minutes more bothered about how on earth I was getting back to my coach safely than enjoying a Champions League final.
I can only sum up exactly in the same way as what Matty said. Lack of stewarding as soon as you got in. They were more concerned after you got in to body check you within a certain area for me. And then once that's done, you're in. You can go wherever you want. We're not going to be checking you. There's locals still in that area as well, just plotting around, just walking around, probably eyeing people up again as they were outside. It was an absolute shambles from start to finish. And at no point did I, going in, did I think, yes, I'm in now. Yeah, let's go. I didn't. I felt relieved. And at some point, I didn't even want to be there at a certain point before I even got to my seat. Because even walking around to get to find a toilet was absolutely a joke itself. It was unclean. It was just horrible. People just literally running everywhere just to try to get to their seats, and you get that. But when you've been through that and you've got people in the air all over the place, ale going all over the place, it just knocks you for six. I got to my seats. I was more relieved than anything else, and I felt bad that I couldn't actually sing and bring and support my team as I would normally would do. It was horrible. It was a horrible feeling.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm very cold as well.
I mean, we've already briefly touched on, the French ministers, and even in this half an hour that we've been talking, Kev, yourself have said you weren't checked for a ticket once. Matty, you've said just once as well, and they one of their main claims is that there was 30 to 40,000 Liverpool fans with fake tickets, not no tickets, fake tickets. That's they have emphasised the fake tickets massively. And, that's been debunked very easily because they would have had to be checking.
The numbers are there. Gates open 3 hours before kickoff. That means 23 people would have had to have scanned tickets every single second of those 3 hours and 16, with 23 of them being fake. It's physically impossible. There wasn't that many turnstiles for it to have been 23 fake tickets a second.
As well as that, how are you going to get a fake site up to incorporate and sell 40,000 tickets online to anyone and distribute without any authority known in the country that you're doing it to, that you can get away with that? It's unbelievable, the numbers that they haven't worked the maths out. Absolutely. Whatsoever. This isn't Athens 07 where you could go in with the ciggy wrapper like everyone's heard and you get in, people crying outside because they had genuine tickets to get in and they locked everything. It wasn't that at all. There was no one selling any tickets. Everyone in those queues were impeccable and had legitimate tickets. There was no counter. There was no fake ones. There was no one saying, "Look what I've got. I've got a fake ticket." There was none of that at all. Instead, you had the people. You have families. Let's bear this in mind. There was families there of all generations. Every generation you can think of was there. Grandparents, fathers, sons, daughters, cousins, any relative was there. Uncles, aunties. And at no point did any of them were in that queue without a legitimate ticket. I'm not having that. I'm not having that as a narrative being sent out. That's a typical, stereotypical 70s, 80s remark that goes down and provides. This is a time where fans should be coming together and uniting and being behind and going, this isn't about Liverpool. This is about, and this could have been any fan. It happened to Real Madrid. It's happened to us. Thank God that it didn't happen to yourselves. I'm just glad I didn't take me Sunday, because I don't know what would have happened if anything happened to him. I don't think I would be here now. I think I'd be in the jail. So it's...
For me, the main thing was all these French ministers are saying that they had to use this tear gas to disperse fans or take tickets from the area. But why did they tear gas us when we were leaving the stadium after the game as well?
Exactly.
That's what I don't understand, because we got tear gassed after the game as well. So and then we led into some moody tunnel where there was people in masks with knives and everything. It was scary. So why was all that happening? Why were we being directed into an underpass tunnel? You could not cross over to the train station. You had to go through this underpass. There was no other way to it. And it was just so moody. And they're spraying gas at you, so you're losing your vision whilst there's all this locals picking your pockets. They had knives and stuff, and you can't see anything. You're coughing your guts up because the tear gas is on your chest. And this is after the game. But all they're speaking about, the French ministers, is, well, we used it before the game. They haven't answered why they tear gassed the fan park either, which I'm led to believe was horrendous. I've seen videos of a blind man getting tear gassed. Why?
It's a joke. Picture the scene, right? Real Madrid have just won it, right? I'm not going to stay there and watch it, okay? Clapton, well done, fair enough. End of the game. I walk out. So I'm walking down. If I go right, that's where I initially walked in. Or I go left, where a lot of people were heading. I asked the three lads who I was with, which way are we going? I wanted to go right. They went, let's go left. So we go left. As Matty describes, you're walking through, okay? So picture it. It's 11 o'clock, nearly 11:30 at night, maybe nearly 12. I can't, my time, I don't know. But it was absolutely dark, right? So you're under this bridge. You've then, as you're walking up, the police then funnel us again. Not just the first time walking in, will funnel you again. Angle all the police vans so you can't get past whatsoever, right? And put an armoured guard barrier of all the riot police there, okay? They would not, again, interact or communicate as to why they were preventing us from going, okay? Once you got past that and they opened it up, picture the scene, 200 yards away is the train station, okay? You're in no man's land. Left-hand side are all the locals congregating together, distracting people, using distracting tactics by kicking cans, by kicking anything towards you, looking really volatile, hostile. While they're doing that, they've got others who are already in mingling in, robbing and targeting fans as they're walking out. As this is happening, the police, there's no police presence. So bear in mind, you're in no man's land. You've got 200 yards to walk. Yeah, you've got elderly people walking. Again, you've got people with asthmatic who can't walk, that elderly, disabled people. Yeah, everyone's getting targeted. As I'm walking down, the three of us got targeted. Me and my two mates. Three lads beelined to where we were. Pushed past us as though there was a bit of a queue. We pushed them away. As they do that, they grab hold of my mate's neck and take his gold chain off him and run. As he runs, we turn around and run after him. We're shouting, stop him, stop him. 50 yards up, we stop him. As we go and try and get the chain off him and fill him in, I'm not going to lie, he gets taken away by three African locals who just come out of nowhere. Bang, gone. His T-shirt's torn. Police aren't bothered. So we can't even claim off his insurance because the police couldn't get a police reference. And what was the point of doing it? Because they weren't even bothered at all. They weren't even concerned about that. They were more concerned if a Liverpool fan was fighting with a Real Madrid fan. It was as though we don't rule Sandy N. Sandy N rules the police. That's the way it went. That's the way it felt. That then continued on the train. Okay, we had to go one stop. As we're waiting for the train, two are in the queue mingling, trying to target lads. One's homed in on this lad's pocket. I didn't even know the lad. I tapped him on the shoulder, man, you better watch out. These little rats are trying to steal off you. As I do that, everyone's heard me, and we all called them out. Little did I know what was gonna happen at Garden Nord. We walk in, get on the carriageway. Again, no staff, so everyone's jumping on these trains, overcrowded. Yeah, locals are all on, pickpocketers, the lot. They're all on these trains. You're overcrowded with fans, not just Liverpool fans, Real Madrid fans as well. Didn't see any Real Madrid fans, but I know there was a few as I was getting off. I saw a few. As we get off the train, I'm going down. Now, I'm going to Alicia. That's where my hotel was. So I had to get to another platform. So the metro underground in Paris is similar to London. Loads of intertwining through gates. Once you're through gates, you're going down little alleyways that you don't know what's around the corner. As we get off the train, as we're going down, train pulls off. 20, 30 locals running right across the platform to the other exit at the other side, running, grabbing anyone that was there, women, children, anything that they had in their hands was getting taken off them, and they were just running down the other end. I feared for my life. I was on edge then. I'm looking around my shoulders every 2 minutes, every 2 seconds. We then went into 3-dimension mode. We had the diamond. One was looking one way, one was looking the other way, one was looking, and we were walking down, holding each other, just trying to make sure that nothing else happened. We were keeping tabs on everyone else. Anyone with kids, we were trying to make sure that they were all right. Yeah, you okay? Yeah, come on. Right. As we get through, I didn't feel safe at all. Not one bit. And by the time I got to my station, it was absolutely pitch dark. After 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm walking around trying to find me hotel. As I'm walking around, I'm hearing scooters going off in the background. I didn't know that. It felt a bit like Napoli away. I thought they were going to come around and start coming. Now, the worst thing about the locals is, as well, what you got to remember is, if you go and start trying to fill any of these in, who's to say they haven't got a knife? Yeah. You know what I mean? People are getting stabbed. All it takes is for you to hit the wrong person. Next minute, a knife comes out and you're getting filled in again. It was absolutely shambolic from start to finish, and it was the most horrendous place I've ever been for a match.
Yeah, I mean, we've heard a lot here, from two people who were at the ground who've experienced all this, from lack of stewarding to police abusing their power. Who is ultimately to blame here, Matty? There's been a lot of people saying that this was the pickpocketing. It was organised by the UEFA stewards, the police, who were all probably locals to Paris, who all lived in Paris their life. How have the locals got that far into the stadium without tickets? They're waiting at the exits with police. Who is to blame and what needs to be done? Because this isn't an isolated incident in Paris. We've seen it before. This didn't happen in other Champions League finals. And yes, that they were given this on not really short notice, but shortish notice due to the war in Ukraine. But it happened at Wembley the year before, and there was never this amount of stuff happening. So who's to blame for this, and what needs to be done to prevent it again? Because it's seriously, so it's a surprise no one died that night from the accounts that you're giving us.
On that, I do think in the next few days you'll probably hear about people who have died. There's still plenty of people missing. I've seen about 20 different people missing on Twitter and stuff, which is quite scary. And I do hope they are found and they are safe, because there has been a few who went missing and being found. But where the French ministers and that are saying, well, we only had 3 months to prepare for this, that's bullshit. It's absolutely. I know it was meant to be in Russia, but all you have to do is go on the Stade de France website and just go on the past events and see the events that these host. They host major sporting events consistently. They host concerts, large-scale concerts. I've been to see Coldplay there. Just this month, they've had the French Cup final. They've had a concert 2 concerts. They've had they had France vs England in the rugby. They host these massive, large scale events all the time. It's a stadium that gets used all the time. I think the French FA are partly to blame in a sense of putting the stadium in the absolute Bronx. It's the roughest area I've ever been in my life. Like, to be honest with you, that's you think of the worst area you can think of, and probably times by about 100. It shouldn't be there. Even French locals are saying that Saint Denis is a pretty much extremist rebel part of Paris, to be honest with you. So the fact the stadium's there is a joke, but you wait for it to blame for no communication, in a sense of there was no one there saying, even if people would have said, like, you're gonna go in there, you might be in there an hour, but yeah, you can't take alcohol, but you can take a water in there if you want, or something like that, just so you can keep hydrated. People, if they just give you just anything, like, the UEFA was silent, completely and utterly silent from the build up into that game, everything. So there was no communication. The police just abused power, to be honest with you. In Madrid, I feel like the police came expecting loads of trouble with Tottenham and Liverpool, and there wasn't. But then their police didn't seem to want to cause the trouble then. They were quite happy that it stayed quite calm. Where with the French police, it came across as though they wanted trouble. They expected trouble. They didn't get the trouble they wanted, so they caused it themselves. Because that's the only reason I can think of, because there's no other reason why they should have tear-gassed any of them fans. Because Liverpool fans aren't stupid. Every fan base has dickheads in it, but Liverpool fans who go to European games, home and away, and finals, in situations like that, you just stick together. You can see your biggest enemy, who you hate in Liverpool, have cup final, and you'd stick with them. You've got to stick together in countries like that, and that's the same mentality most Liverpool fans have. And there was just no trouble ever. I didn't see any ounce of trouble other than with the police. I think it's a mixture of the police and the FA. Like, I mean, the UEFA, because you wait for coming out and blaming fans, they owe us an apology straight away. Straight away, they owe Liverpool fans an apology for what they said about us, and more needs to be done, to be honest with you. I paid, I think it was €690 for my ticket, Cat 1, and was treated like that. It's ridiculous. There was someone on my coach who didn't get into the game until the 52nd minute of the Champions League final. And then when they've been using these photos saying, look at the Liverpool end, there's fans stood on the stairs, and the Madrid end, there wasn't. That is the French FA's problem, because you could literally walk into any tier. Once I was in, I could have walked into the Madrid side, the Liverpool side, the neutral side. I probably could have even walked around and give Camille Cabello a kiss if I wanted to. Like, the stadium was open the minute you got in, and you could literally just duck under, like, the segregation bits. I stayed where I was meant to be because I just couldn't be bothered. I didn't want to move. I didn't want any more trouble. But it was just, I think it's a mixture of the French FA and UEFA who were to blame. I'm a little bit disappointed with our police, because they were there. They did tweet about it, but there was no spokesperson for them when all this was happening. Our police didn't seem to be like trying to help resolve things. They've come out and said that we was fantastic fans, which we were while we were there. But I think that they could have maybe helped a little bit more in a sense of communicating with their police, getting answers as to why this was happening, because it was just shambolic. And even after the game, like, it was just as bad as before the game. There was just no answers for it. It was just a total abuse of power. And I don't understand where it comes from. Whether I feel like it comes from the England team as well, to be honest with you, because all the English fans ruin it for most fans across Europe. But for some reason, the French have got an agenda, and they're not very nice people anyway, to be honest. And I think it's completely tarnished. And I genuinely believe that France should never, ever be allowed to host a major sporting event again. Like, people who are going to the Olympics in 2 years, God help you. God help you.
Yeah, I mean, Kev, that's I think UEFA come out, and I think firstly the French ministers, I think, come out with after a lot of backlash. I know that a lot of the French mainstream media are now turning their backs on what they originally said and are condemning what happened and saying there's a major issue there, which forced the French ministers they still blame the Liverpool fans, but they said that it was regrettable that they used tear gas. And we've talked about who needs to be held responsible, but what needs to happen, because at the end of the day, this is, people were paying thousands upon thousands of pounds to get this, hard-earned money, working class people who this, they could have had a family holiday or something, but instead, they've done this. It's not cheap. I'd probably average that most people were paying upwards of 600 quid just for a ticket, not including flights, hotels, travel, food. And I think they estimated that around 2,500 fans without a ticket didn't get in with legitimate tickets. There was probably more than that, but that's what they've estimated. This is an isolated incident, like I've said before, because it did not happen in Madrid and it did not happen in Kiev. That's where the whole, the fans, the British fans have usually done this. We're expecting this, but it didn't happen in the previous two finals. It's only happened now. What needs to happen? They need to be banned.
There's been British fans in the last 5 European finals. Don't forget that.
Yeah, the way to look at it is, right, you look at France over the weekend, okay? So over the weekend, you had the French Open on in Paris. You had down in southern France, you had Formula One, yeah? Potentially, they're the upper class, their games, yeah? What else was going on? A working class game set in a working class environment, they thought. Now, the difference with Ukraine was Ukraine are notorious for their ultras. The worst thing about it is there's no interaction with them to say, right, back off, because if you don't, you're going to get it, right? And putting your main, even if it means the military there, you put them in the way and you provide the safety. You put parameters in place. No one should have been at that, should have come off that train, and within 50 yards of coming off, security checks come in. There was no point of us being secure. Anyone who had a legitimate ticket didn't feel secure from the minute you got off that train until you got to the actual stadium. So the interaction with the ultras, the interaction with locals that they know are notorious. Don't get me wrong, I agree with Matty. We were speaking to an owner of a bar in Paris where I mentioned before, and that's owned by an ex-Paris Saint-Germain player, and we were talking and discussing. It wasn't until after the game you realised that. And what he said to certain parts of Paris, I wouldn't even take my kids. You hear what Thierry Henry says? Shouldn't be played in Saint-Denis, right? Saint-Denis. So you work with the locals. That's down to the French government. It's down to the French authorities not interacting and not dispersing it away and ensuring that there was a safety for people. It will only take a corporate who've spent loads, either from MasterCard or whatever else, GASING or whatever, or Gatorade, to come out and speak fully to UEFA and say, you need to pull a bloody backbone here and put them in order for what they've done and how we've been treated. We've paid X amount of millions to his sponsorship deals. That's the only way that this is going to get any worse. I am grateful for Carvey Sovacle of Sky Sports News for coming out and reporting it for what it is. This afternoon when he came out and he's explained that, I got emotional. I cried my eyes out before. And I still get a little bit emotional about it because of how we were treated and how people see us. Heartbreaking. But the book lies with the authorities. Every journalist. The worst thing about this is not like the 70s or 80s. You have social media. There are videos backing up what fans are saying. There's journalists, there's players, ex-players. Alan Kennedy scored the winning goal in 81. He's getting carried out and over because of what was going on. Jason McAteer's wife was caught up in things. Andy Robertson, mate, who we gave a ticket to, he was told that his ticket was fake. So at what point are they going to sit back? They can't use that narrative anymore. They've used it to try and think, this is an easy task. We can do this. It's happened before. This is where we need our government. We need everyone who involved. The local council. Ian Baines trying to get everyone involved as well. Phil Scratton, who done the Hillsborough inquiry, is asking for people's accounts. If anyone wants to come to me, I can give them the web is email address for accounts. Liverpool are asking for statements of individuals as well. So you do both of them. You copy and paste. That's what I've done. I've written nearly 1,000 words of my experience, which I've only gone through a little bit tonight, from when I left to when I got home. I've never felt so scared and so vulnerable in what is a beautiful city, and they've disrespected the French people, the Parisian people. Some of them are nice, but you don't do what you've done to two royalties of football in Real Madrid and Liverpool. Don't forget, this wasn't just Liverpool fans that got caught up in this. This was also Real Madrid fans. So I would like Liverpool and Real Madrid to do what Rangers and Eintracht Frankfurt are doing for what happened in Seville, and join together, united fans and the officials of each side, and put an inquest into the UEFA. Until that happens, we're not going to get to the bottom of it.
I think the thing for me as well was when I got on my coach and you went on your UEFA's tweet that they done as the game had kicked off, and reading the replies of other fans and stuff, that hurt a lot. Like, because when you've experienced that and genuinely feared for your life, and I went into the stadium with loads of missed calls off family, and I would see videos and stuff, genuinely worried that people who are at the ground might not come home. And why should people be thinking like that? They're going to watch the team, and you're on this and you're seeing all of the fans going typical Scousers, always the victims, Scousers bunking in, Scousers doing this, Scousers doing that. It hurts to read it. And like what Kev said, Kavir off Sky has been an absolute saint. Gary Lineker even I hate Gary Lineker, but he's tweeted loads about it. And the more and more people that speak about it, the more that needs to be done. I've seen now about Rangers and Frankfurt today, and that's something that Liverpool do need to do, because, yeah, the Madrid fans may have been 95% in by 5-9, and Liverpool fans weren't, but they got the same treatment. You could see outside the stadium. I seen a police fell battering a Madrid fan with a baton, like when he was by the turnstile. What? Like, just make it make sense. It's ridiculous, and UEFA do need to be called out for it, because it does happen all the time. It's just all about money for them, and it's scary. And I seen something that UEFA were trying to blame the French police around that bottleneck, saying that they agreed that it wasn't going to work and it got sprung on them last minute. How can the French police overrule UEFA for a security measure at the event? How can UEFA make a recommendation saying we don't think that looks safe, and it still happen? And then when it's proved to not be safe and be failing, how's that not raised? Going, well, this has been raised, why, and it's failed.
Liverpool security even made suggestions that everything wasn't safe. Bear in mind, those announcements that were going on inside the stadium, they weren't getting told to us outside. So literally afterwards, and it wasn't until people getting text off people at home where people were made aware that the game was delayed. At no point there was an announcement. An announcement came shortly around about 9:15, something like that. But by which time we'd all been messaged by family and friends that the game's going on. A lad who I sit next to, a season ticket holder, who I tried to couldn't meet up with him for whatever reason. He wants to get down there a bit earlier than what I did. He kept me up to date. Now, that is wrong. How can fans be treated like that? How can fans who have gone there to experience a game, whether you're in the neutral end or whether you're behind the Real Madrid or the Liverpool end, how can anyone go to a game at any age and experience and encounter what everyone has witnessed and seen? Don't get me wrong. There's not going to be everyone who's going to fall at seeing what we've discussed tonight, because many were inside and won't have that story, but they will have the story afterwards, and that narrative of what happened is true and is there to say. There's witnesses, there's videos about it. At no point did they announce anything to us. There was no communication, lack of any kind of support for anyone outside. We were treated like animals. And until we're treated as human beings who go to a tennis match or a Formula One, will anything change? They need to change this narrative that every British fan has this stereotype with them, regardless. None of that is true. Yes, some are accurate. Every team has the minority, but no one's going to a final to cause trouble. You're going there to support your team and get behind them. And you've got generations. As I said before, you've got generations going to a game, not just your single 20-year-olds who are there and trying to prove a point. You've got generations from old to young to disabled kids. The disabled access in that stadium was absolutely terrible and was given to press and people to stand around. which made it even more insecure. It wasn't even friendly for disabled people. It was absolutely appalling. Every fan you can think of was treated and acted like a little animal, and was like the worst thing you could ever be. We're worse than like a homeless person would be looked down on. It was absolutely despicable. And until that narrative changed, and that still is presented in certain police authorities in England as well, by the way, and at every away ground, you see a little narrative like this. Until things change, nothing will ever get changed at all. And UEFA needs to start growing a backbone and calling it out for what it is. Because if they don't, I don't think the media are going to stand for it. You've got Henry Winter supporting what the fans went through. Oliver Holt. There's endless ones. And until that narrative is actually looked upon and fans come together and don't use it as a secretarial kind of place of, well, it's used and not us, just be thankful it wasn't used. Just be thankful that there's two teams that have took the book again and are there trying to make sure that we're fighting to make sure that this doesn't happen to anyone else. The last thing I want to see is another fan going to a ground like the Stade de France and experiencing and witnessing what I did.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you know, we've spoken for an hour today. You know, these Kev and Matty are two people who have been to probably hundreds of Liverpool games, and this is one of their worst experiences they've ever went to at a ground. And you know, at the end of the day, we're football fans. We're going there to watch 90 minutes of the team that we love. And you should never, no football fan, no matter, I wouldn't care if it's a Man United fan, a Man City fan, an Everton fan, no one should ever have to fear for their life at a football game. Yes, there's rivalry, but there's difference between this. And, you know, it's great to see, you know, like Cav, Oliver Holt, you know, all of these journalists who aren't just Liverpool related, who are mainstream media. It's great to see them all coming out in support of it. There's been Real Madrid, a massive Spanish outlet as well. I can't remember the name, but they had cameras on the ground the whole time documenting all this stuff. Everything is well documented. There were no 40,000 fake tickets. There was no instigation from Liverpool fans. Everything come from the police. Everything was started by them bottlenecking fans, you know, letting thieves get away with robbing tickets, you know, and just pure incompetence. And, you know, Amelia Castria is one of the ministers. Darmian, I forgot, Gerald Darmian, another minister, who have both come out and pathetically blamed fans for what has happened in their city. Need to get a grip and look at themselves, because what they're doing is ruining people's lives. They need to accept responsibility for this and you know, just take the blame. Say you messed up. You will never, if you don't, you're going to get, you know, no one's ever going to go to your city again. You know, this is going to be going on forever. And Liverpool, FSG, everybody who is related in the club needs to keep pushing this. We can't let this be a thing where it just fizzles out after a few weeks. We need to just bombard UEFA with emails. You know, everyone who was there, even if you wasn't there, you know, there's mountains and mountains of proof here that what they're claiming just didn't happen. They're going around tear gassing little kids, families, elderly people, blind people, for no apparent reason at all. And, you know, UEFA need to hold the hands up and say, we messed up. We will never give Paris another major event again, because, you know, this is an isolated incident. As I said earlier in the stream, people who go to Paris, I'm sure we had issues when we went to PSG in the group stages a few years ago as well. You know, they're and it's a horrible generalization to do, but there is a massive issue with the police and with just everything higher up in Paris, and it needs to be dealt with. And, you know, if UEFA are refusing to apologise, if the ministers who are coming out blaming Liverpool fans are refusing to apologise and take blame, we need to go after the sponsors, as Kev said, because that is what will take that's what will make them say sorry.
Yeah.
Liverpool
They
need
were
to use.
they were part of that actual. They got caught up with it. There was UEFA VIP coaches, and I think there was about one or two that I saw where I was. Don't get me wrong, I gave them the fingers because of how corrupt UEFA are. But as I walked past, as I done that, they were caught up in that. This isn't just your normal local fan who just managed to get a ticket and has just got out the ballot. This was every fan. Listen to Matt. He paid top dollar, top whack for his ticket. You know, the only thing that was missing was a corporate dinner for him because of how much he paid for his ticket. It was absolutely scandalous. So to be paid that much and you're not given a service that is up to standard is absolutely a joke. And that's not just Liverpool fans, that's Real Madrid fans. That's their corporate as well. Not your prawn and sandwich brigade, as well as all your MasterCards, all the main sponsors of their actual of UEFA, of this UEFA family. And until they start calling UEFA out and go, well, bollocks, no, I disagree with that. You need to call it out. Until someone multi-millionaire comes out and says no to UEFA and stands up to them and they listen, and the ones that they only listen to, by the way, not just anyone, it has to come from them. And I'll continue to say, until our MPs, how much I hate them, they need to understand and come together. And our actual foreign minister has to make dialogue and be. Now, don't forget that conference today didn't have anyone from Real Madrid or from Liverpool whatsoever. It was all French media. It was all French orientated. There was no one else there that could call them out on it, apart from the journalists that may be in there that were willing to say something after they made a spiel and waffled on for 5 minutes or 9 minutes. It's an absolute joke. And until that happens, we need to keep the pressure on. But that pressure's got to come from the top, not from the bottom this time, like it always does. We'll continue. Again, if anyone wants to get in touch with me, you're more than welcome to. I can give you the Phil Scratton, who was part of the Hillsborough inquest. He's looking for people's statements. The official club, if you go on the website, they are asking for official statements. Get in touch with both of them. But if you want to get in touch with me and find that out, then I can more than well, if you haven't already seen it already, because it has been on Twitter. So please, just anyone who went, make the account. We need everyone. Everyone has had an encounter, whether you went in or went out, how small, how big, it doesn't matter. This is not, oh, this is me and look what's happened to me. It's not. It's about all fans coming together and unifying and using that unity and putting it together for something good. And that is to bring down this actual narrative that is hitting and bombarding not just us, but every other English fan that goes abroad now.
Yeah, and someone said here, no disrespect, but I barely see politicians taking responsibility. Remember Hillsborough and what happened there. That is why we need to push this so much, because
to be fair, I think Steve Rotherham was mugged, which was in Mayor of Liverpool, and I think Ian Byrne which is the MP for West Derby. I think he had a bit of the
Mayor of Liverpool as well, Joe Anderson. Anderson was caught up in it. No, this isn't like 89. This isn't like then. There is more video evidence. There's more social media. You've got social media. There's interactions now. This will be heavily bombarded. You've got the Spirit of Shankly already coming out with statements. They're joining with the European Football Committee as well, trying to get the supporters' view from that aspect as well. That's where you Real Madrid need to come into the game as well. That's where we need to build allegiances with them and come out together with a collective statement, a joint statement from both sets of fans, if possible, and also especially from the top, because this should not be happening at any ground in 2022. It is absolute joke. This is not the 70s. We're not in that. We need to get rid of that stereotype. And that stereotype is instilled in a lot of authorities, whether in this country or abroad. And until it's actually distilled and diluted out, will we see any kind of change in the way any fan is treated? And until that happens, nothing will. But all I say is that this is not, and it will not be left for 30 or 40 years before any action's done. This will not lay with anyone. And anyone who was there that I know will be putting statements in. And if you haven't, why aren't you? Put them in. You've got family members who may have gone there. Get them involved. Get them input. And the more statements that are put in, that builds more pressure. That then means that there's more reason for them to do a thorough investigation. That investigation has to be independent, not through the corruptness of UEFA, which will sift out the things that we know what happened. So until that happens, that's all I can say about it. Just get on the official, get anyone who went, who went, and experienced and encountered whatever they did, whether that was in the fan bar, in the fan zone, or who was at the game.
Yeah, and I think another really important thing that does need to happen. I know there's multiple investigations going on: Liverpool, Spurs, Shankly, other ones. UEFA can't investigate this if they're serious. They need to hire an independent investigator to get everything, no matter how long it takes. They just need to, if they come out with a statement saying we have hired an independent, not internally, independently, and that will be like, okay, you're doing something about it. But if they do it internally, nothing's going to come of it. If Florentino Perez hates UEFA as much as he says, even, he wanted to start the whole Super League, he needs to, come out and support Liverpool. But I think a lot, and I know this isn't directly on them, but FSG need to invest whatever money it will take for them to admit their wrongdoing. It's so important that this doesn't become another thing that's swept under the rug by UEFA, because they have enough money to do it. They're the ones who are able to go after fans, their sponsorship. Sorry, they're the ones who are able to go after the sponsorships, because that's where it boils down to. And if the sponsorships aren't targeted, then it's just going to be nothing. You need to hit them where it matters, and that's money. But as Kev said, if you know anyone who was at the game, even if they didn't have a bad experience, even if they just experienced a little bit, but by the sounds of it, everyone had a bad experience, go to Liverpool's Twitter, DM Kev, he'll send you the links. Go and share this video, because we've had 2 accounts from people who were there. These Kev and Matty were 2 Liverpool fans on the ground who have spent a lot of money to get there, and they were treated like animals. And at the end of the day, all they wanted to do was go and support the team, and that should never happen. So make sure you share this video to anyone you can, and we'll be retweeting all of the stuff, all the links. So we've got a bunch of the Liverpool questionnaire thing that they've asked, and if Kev wants to send me any more, we'll be retweeting that on all of our pages, so keep an eye out for that. But do you guys want to finish on anything? I know we've been talking a lot, and I really appreciate everybody who has stayed here, and for Matty and Kev for joining. But if you guys want to finish on anything, take the stand.
I just hope all fans do what Kev said and give statements. We will only win this if we all club together. That's all I want to say.
Agree. It's down to us. It's a unit. It's not sectarial anymore. This is fans. This is fans being treated like we've always have done. This is a way and an opportunity for us to have our say as to what actually happened and provide actual evidence, not made up from the sky. This is down to everyone who was there, whether you were in a fan zone, whether you were watching in a pub and you walked out. What happened? Provide your encounters. Provide the evidence. Only then will people start listening. The less people that do that, then this will be put under the floorboards and forgotten about. But as I know with our club, this won't happen. There's too many people on this. There's too many caught up, higher up than just fans. You've got journalists from around the world who are there. This isn't just a bog standard game, pardon French, at the racecourse ground and a pre-season game at Wrexham. This is the prestige, creme de la creme, UEFA Champions League final with over 1 billion people watching around the world. They are massive corporate corporations involved at high scale level for sponsorship deals who were also caught up in this. So this narrative cannot stand. So as long as the likes of Malik's are ready, Carver, Savigal, the Athletic, and everyone else, and we keep bombarding the authorities with what we saw and what we witnessed, will we get change? And that change is for everyone, not just Liverpool fans. That's for everyone.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, guys, thank you everybody for joining this video. Again, if you can, share it on Twitter or social medias to get the first-hand, experiences from two fans who were there. I know other outlets like The Athletic and BBC have also been interviewing fans, so make sure you share that, get everything out there that you can surrounding it, retweet all the footage, share all the footage of innocent fans getting tear gas. But Matty, Kev, glad you're back in Liverpool and safe and sound and ready to do more streams with us. It's unfortunately something you just have to live with now. But hopefully we get justice for this and the right people are held to account. But thank you, lads, for joining us. Everybody in the stream as well, thank you so much for joining us on today's stream.